all else, produces young children that are, and adults, that are confident, that are creative and know how to think outside of the box, that are committed to cause. Because if you don't know commitment, you will stand for anything and do anything. And that above all else, a country that is caring and compassionate. And this is not the first time I've said it. You heard me say it on the renaming of the highway for Griner. You've heard me say it many times before I was even leader of this Barbados Labour Party. You've heard me say it for those who know me back from my days as a schoolgirl in Queen's College, and even at Miss Carrington School, Maryville Prep. You've heard me say it then, because this is not something that I have become a latter-day saint or apostle. I was raised in a household that taught me to believe that I am not better than anybody else, but equally no one is better than I am. And more importantly, that this notion that all that the world needs in a post-United Nations world is equal opportunity is a nonsense. Because what we have is a decimation of rights for centuries. And when one person is down here and the other is up here, you then want to frame it as an equality of opportunity discussion. When we know that the person who is down here and frail cannot do what the person who is up here and strong can do. So you ask me why we leave out people under 36,000. Because you and I know that the most important thing in this country is ownership of a piece of land and a house. And I say that there are too many policemen, too many nurses, too many teachers, too many gas station attendants, too many clerical officers in this country who deserve to own a house and land like the rest of the people who have. And this Barbados Labour Party government under my leadership will make sure that they get that chance in this country. You ask me why this government chooses to spend money on certain capital projects in the heart of Bridgetown. Because when that little boy or girl goes to catch the bus at the bus stand in Fairchild Street, and they turn to the mother or the father or the aunt or the uncle and say, "Mommy, what's that park over there? Auntie, what's that park over there?" You must be able to walk them across the road and sit down in the park when it is finished and explain to them that there was a time in this country when ordinary people could not get access to decent housing or food or all kinds of things and were treated as nothing but chattels, even when the law stopped treating them as chattels. And that this country has chosen, in the center of its capital, to pay obeisance and to say thank you every day. Because none of us knew what it was like for Clement Plain or Israel Lovell or any of them to go through what they went through, standing up for others, only to be prosecuted, imprisoned, and in some instances to lose their lives. And from that spot arose all of us who claim for the last, how long? 80 years. That we belong to something. The thing that we belong to didn't start in the air. It started as a result of people taking a stand cumulatively, and they weren't the only ones, because before them there were those with the UNIA meeting in Queen's Park. Because Garvey's reach, even in the absence of technology, even in the absence of CBC, Garvey's reach, and that would be a lesson, I think, for the leader of the opposition, as it was for me, and an inspiration. That the reach is what you make it and how you remain committed to cause and find every way to get around the obstacles legally that you can do. But these are the things that we are choosing. We chose to go in Fairchild Street Market. Everybody in this country used to laugh and talk about how much rats opposite VOB when the day come, as if that was a badge of honor. And this government says no. Take the vendors and put them in proper accommodation. That's part of a new social contract and a new perspective. That taxpayers' money must not only be used for people at the very top. It has to be used in aid of, and I say that conscious that the Auditor General's report got people's head twirling in this country. But suffice it to say that it's not only the Auditor General who got a copy of the report. Barvin, Barbados Association of Vendors, for more than 10 years, chock-a-block there in Cheapside. And we said no. They were asking for it for more than 10 years. And we've taken them and put them on the highway where people can go and drive to them. And I expect in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, that thing is going to mushroom. Farmers markets, with all due respect, can't only exist in Brighton, St. George. They're going to exist in Brighton, St. Michael too. So I say all of these things because you judge people not just by their statements, but by their actions. Trust loans. Who has ever taken a chance on people and said, look, without the collateral, how do you move from the stage of being a nano businessman, somebody who is just an itinerant vendor, somebody who trying a thing, and move to the next level if you don't have access to some basic capital? And these are the things, but we take the people's money in taxes, and we then don't want to have the opportunity to make sure that we can enfranchise them in a way that makes sense. Mr. Speaker, I really did not expect and want to spend so much time talking. But the truth is that the Leader of the Opposition reminded me of a few things that I wanted to share, and I thank him for that. And I end simply by saying that, look, these are not normal times. And there are a number of state-owned enterprises that will face difficulties in the same way that a number of private sector people are facing difficulties. I want to say to some of the private sector people that in addition, it is not back business as usual. We have to get there. We know it. And we have to continue to get there because the world is not going to wait on us. But having said that, we have to hold each other up as much as possible because it is us who will hold each other, not nobody else. So this is brought here to allow us to act in consistent with the laws of this land. I trust and pray that we will be able to allow a solution to emerge for the Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation as a serious digital entity, whether on its own or in conjunction with members of the private sector, but recognizing that technology is not waiting on us and that the technology which CBC relies on today is obsolescent in a very real sense. Not that it is gone today, but I anticipate that in another 10 to 15 years, you're not going to see the use of free-to-air in the same way that we would have seen it in the last 50 or so years. And we have, therefore, to adapt to the times and put ourselves in that position to be competitive, but also to ensure that the process of nation building that is also about information sharing and reinforcement does not leave the arsenal of a government in shaping a country or in forging the outlooks and attitudes of a people. I'm obliged to you.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank honourable members who contributed to this debate. And I must say, sir, I listened very carefully to all speakers. And it certainly has been very interesting, sir, the contribution, if one can refer to it as that, by the honourable leader of the opposition. Because listening very carefully, sir, and you know communication is an interesting thing, and we're here to discuss, well, on the one hand, the financial situation of CBC. The mechanism is that CBC is in the business of communication. And therefore, listening very carefully, sir, to the leader of the opposition, a couple of things hit home or resonated with me, sir. And in the context of media, I must say that whilst the allegation that somehow the other government was smothering attention away from others, and I must say, sir, having participated in the discussion to celebrate our 2-year anniversary of winning at the polls, I can say to you, sir, that exercise, I was contacted by a member of the staff at CBC to indicate this is what we will be doing, and therein lies the, in terms of the specific program that he referenced. But I say that to say this, sir. I have observed, and let me just say two very specific things. Based on the tone of the members' contribution, I glean two very important things. I could be right, I could be wrong, sir, but I glean two things. The members seem to be obsessed with attention on the one hand, and he got quite agitated on the other hand with reference to money in relation to political parties. But during the course of the last few weeks, sir, I have observed from the various media that members of his party, sir, have gotten much more attention in the newspapers and within the context of what I've seen than he certainly has over the last few weeks. And perhaps, sir, people are beginning to question how effective he may be as the leader of the opposition. But I'm just saying what I observe in terms of coverage in the paper and what have you. And I do know, sir, that in the other place, the Senate, that whenever there's a debate, there's a penchant for one of his senators, more often than not, sir, despite what the leader of the opposition says here in this chamber, that member in the other place often grabs the headline, sir, saying all kinds of things which are clearly contrary to what he, the leader of the party, says here, sir. And he gets the attention, sir. And therefore, what I sensed, sir, was a pressure building.
I remember for
Sorry, I can't see.
Michael X.
Oh, I can't see, sorry.
Well, that's foolishness. Sorry, sir.
Continue.
Mr. Speaker, I
You
continue?
got me at any point or was it continue?
Okay, sorry.
I remember for Christchurch.
Yes, thank you. So it seems to me, sir, just from my casual observation, that the attention of the other members of the attention that other members of his party seems to be getting publicly, sir, seems to be getting under his skin because he seems to assert that members of the government.
Mr. Speaker,
sorry.
with all due respect, point of order.
I remember for Michael.
The honourable member is misleading the House. This is about CBC, isn't it?
I don't understand. The point of order, sir.
Let me say this. I don't need to seek for any headlines. the honorable member is misleading the House. That is the impression he's giving. That is what my speech has been about. He's misleading the House and responding to that. I don't need to seek for any headlines. I have had the honor and privilege and the power to have appointed in the upper chamber of this parliament two responsible people, one very experienced, one young and brilliant, the two best senators they are.
That's the point.
Mr. Speaker, keep still to this. You want me to curse? You will not get that. You will not get that. You will not get that. Madam, you had your time.
Continue on, remember.
Thank you. I have had the honor and the authority, the right, under law, to appoint two members to the Senate Chamber of Barbados. Two responsible people, one experienced, one young and brilliant, both of whom the government would like to see absent from the Senate because their contributions are telling. And further, I have never instructed any.
Speaker said, on a point of order,
Honorable Minister.
the honourable member ought not to mislead the House. I would be very happy to see the, what's her name? Senator Drakes. I believe she's a very good senator. I would be happy to see her as a government senator too.
Confirms what I was saying, Mr. Speaker. So I'm not misleading the House. Confirms what I was saying. Never instructed any of the two of them as to what to say. In fact, I have clearly told them, speak your minds. They were appointed before we constituted a political party. You have leave of me to speak your minds independently and even disagree with me. Now, this honorable member from Christchurch, Essential, over whom I have been sparing today, ought when he hears big people talking to keep quiet and not to get into that. He is out of his league. Now, let me say this.
Honorable member, that is.
He is misleading the House
Yeah, but
as to what I purpose to say.
Honorable member, when I speak, I think honorable member, when I speak, I think people must listen to when I speak that I have commanded the chair. I don't think there's any need for you to go in anywhere to use language that might be deemed offensive. I understand. Honorable member, just listen. I mean,
I'm listening.
Yes, you have to.
What
You can
language
raise
did
a
I
point
use?
of order, but I prefer that you cull your language in a different.
What language, Mr. Speaker?
But I'm in the chair. I just would prefer you to cull your language differently. Continue, honorable member.
Mrs. Sorry.
Continue, honorable.
I was suggesting that when the honorable member for Christchurch East Central hears big people talking, he should keep out of it, especially with his limited experience in these matters. Now,
All right, don't let's get any side talk. Only one person is allowed to speak at a time in this chamber.
and he's been misleading this House as to what I said earlier, and I'm trying to correct that, Mr. Speaker. Now, here is an honorable gentleman over whom I have been sparing in these debates on this day. I have heard him no less than on 5 occasions make comment with respect to what should happen to the numbers of portfolio appointments in the cabinet of Barbados. Totally inappropriate.
But
Totally inappropriate. He brought that in here today in this debate.
honorable member, is this the point of order you're raising in relation?
Point of
to-
order,
to
he's
what my-
misrepresented what he said.
But I have to rule on the point of order, so I prefer you not to go down that line.
Well, that is all right. But
Honorable member.
tell the honorable member.
I prefer you not to go
Tell
down
the
that.
honorable member not to be misguided by his own inexperience and ignorance, I mean lack of knowledge, on these matters, and speak to the points. May not be bishop-like, it's parliamentary though.
Mr. Speaker,
Can you turn off
must-
your mic, sir? Honorable member, can you use-
I must admit, sir, I am perhaps my inexperience has left me a little confused by what was just heard in the chamber, because I indicated quite clearly what was my impression based on what I have seen in the public as well as on CBC with respect to the fact that members of his party have been getting more attention in recent times than he has. And therefore, if he believes that that is an erroneous assumption on my part, then simply say that. But I'm just saying to you, that is what I have seen. And therefore, I understand that when a man is under a little pressure, sir, under a little pressure to get attention.
Mr. Speaker, again, I rise in objection. He is totally misrepresented.
Honourable member, with the greatest of respect, you have risen already on that point of order. There's no need for you to rise again on it. You have made your point on that point of order, so there's no need, sir, for you to repeat.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. My opportunity will come again. I won't be so.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Pressure is a very serious thing. But let me get to the other point, because substance, sir, is critical in these debates. And I raise the other point upon which he got quite agitated in his previous contribution, which relates to monies. And he raised the spectre, sir, of the fact that somehow it was immoral of the Barbadians. Any party